You don't think about ghosts when the fluorescent lights are flickering and someone's screaming for Ativan. Kingsford Public isn't a place for mystery. It's a place where air conditioning fails on 107-degree nights, where we keep bodies in broken coolers because the morgue won't fund new freezers. I've been an ER nurse here for 9 years, long enough to recognize the subtle whine of burnout in a coworker's voice, long enough to forget what silence feels like. I'm Ellie Dawson, 35, student debt the size of a mortgage, a disease that makes my hands ache halfway through every shift. And Sophie, my daughter, my heart, 7 years old and too smart for the broken world I'm raising her in. It started the night of Clara's February 18th. It was already 98 degrees when I walked into the ward, sticky scrubs clinging to my back. I logged in, took a report from the day nurse, and barely noticed anything off until the first Clara arrived. Clara Henderson, 68, coding when she hit the ambulance bay. EMS said she fell reaching for the kettle. Bruises bloomed down, her neck like wet ink. I did compressions until I felt a rib crack beneath my palms. 47 minutes, nothing. I called it at 11:55 p.m. 7 minutes later, the second Clara came through the doors. Clara Hartwell, 68, same fall, same wrist fracture, same date of birth. She flatlined at 12:09 a.m. The same faded photo clutched in their fists. The Newcastle Memorial Fountain under a summer sun, colors nearly leached away. Same Kmart nightgown, same expired digoxin packet tucked in their robes. I tried to find the logic, some twisted coincidence, but the night wasn't finished with me yet. The day after the Claras, the IV pumps went haywire. It was just past midnight when the alarms blared, every pump in Trauma B screaming like a dying animal. I ran from bed to bed, but none of them were even in use. Biomedical came down 3 hours later, shrugged, and said all batteries had drained to exactly 14%. 14. The number clung to me like a rash. 14 minutes between the Clara's deaths. 14% battery. Bed 14 where we treated. Henderson, I chalked it up to stress, lack of sleep. Nurses aren't supposed to believe in patterns. We believe in blood pressure, lactic acid levels, and ECG rhythms. But the next night, the ward started talking. Wheelchair movements, lights blinking in the shape of numbers. A junior nurse swore she smelled flowers and antiseptic floating between beds. I wanted to laugh. We all did, in that brittle way you do when your brain is slipping sideways. Back home, things were worse. Sophie had started sleepwalking. I woke up at 3:14 a.m., because of course it was 3:14, to find her at the front door. Her hand on the knob, her lips whispering, "The ladies want to play." I checked the locks twice after that, slept with a chair propped under the door handle, told myself she was dreaming, just a child processing the chaos of our lives. Then, I found the heart medication, same as the Clara's digoxin, a discontinued brand pulled in 2019 for safety concerns. Sophie had brought it in from the garden, said she found it buried in the dirt. She handed it to me like it was treasure. My hands shook so hard I dropped it, and that's when I stopped telling myself it was all in my head. I took a day off, told my manager I had a fever. Not a lie. My autoimmune flare-ups were getting worse, red blotches rising under my skin like tiny burn scars. Sophie stayed at school, and I went digging. The hospital records were yellowed, incomplete. But I found them, both Claras, admitted multiple times in the early 80s for occupational exposure. They'd worked in the old textile factory off Maitland Road, the one that caught fire in '81. No one ever talked about that place, not since the fire spread through the ventilation and killed 8 women trapped on the 3rd floor. Both Claras made it out. Both kept returning to Kingsford for chronic respiratory problems after that. Both treated by Dr. Lionel Whitmore, my mentor when I was a student. He was brilliant and broken, known for sleeping in the call room for days at a time, for whispering to himself between rounds. Everyone assumed he burned out. In 2015, he jumped from the roof of the admin building. Never knew why. He didn't leave much. Just a single sentence on his suicide note typed out and printed on Kingsford letterhead. They come in pairs now. I copied it down. Felt a pressure in my ears like diving too deep. Later that night, Sophie wouldn't eat dinner. She stared at the empty chair across from her and whispered, "She says her name is Clara." I asked which one. She shrugged. She says she was first. I came in early the next night. Thought maybe being around people would help. I told myself the routine was grounding. At 6:48 p.m. I found them in my locker. 2 nightgowns, pale pink, floral print. Tags still on, but the fabric smelled like hospital bleach and something sweet underneath. Gardenias, maybe. My locker was locked, and I hadn't touched it all day. I folded them and shoved them in the biohazard bin, but when I passed the bin 10 minutes later, it was empty. I asked the cleaner if she'd taken them. She looked confused. Said no one had emptied that bin. At 9:34 p.m., I walked past Trauma B and saw the monitors glowing. Both beds, 14 and 23, displayed heart rates, 68 beats per minute. We hadn't had patients in those beds for 3 hours. The monitors weren't connected to anything. No leads, no vitals, just 2 steady pulses on dead machines. Then the PA crackled. "Mummy, why won't you let them in?" Sophie's voice, the sound, hit me harder than any code blue I've ever run. I dropped the patient chart I was holding, ran to the nurse's station, heart in my throat. No one had used the PA system all night. Security confirmed no outside lines had accessed it. But the audio file, the voice, it was logged under my employee ID. At home, I found Sophie standing at the kitchen table, her eyes wide and empty, like she wasn't really inside. 2 chairs were sat across from her. She was carefully pouring tea into 3 plastic cups. I don't know what's real anymore. The footage from that night? I begged security to let me see it. They watched it with me, silent. The screen showed me in Trauma B doing chest compressions on 2 empty gurneys. No Claras, no patients. Just me, arms pumping air, sweat running down my face, talking to no one. I've started hearing their voices at home, in the vents, in the mirror. The same clipped tone, the same static buzz hush. You remembered us. I dream of fabric catching fire, of hands pressing mine. I feel their weight on the end of my bed at night. And Sophie, she draws them now. 2 women, hand in hand, standing by the Newcastle Memorial Fountain. Sometimes they're on fire. Sometimes they're transparent, always smiling. I can't go back to Kingsford. They've suspended me. They think I forged the incident logs, the equipment malfunctions, the patient deaths that never existed on paper. No one believes in ghosts, especially not the ghosts of the working poor, especially not the ones who wore Kmart nightgowns and carried expired meds in their pockets. But I know what I saw. They come in pairs now, and I think the 3rd seat at Sophie's tea party, it's mine. I didn't expect much from my first job out of residency. The Queenstown Urology Clinic in Dunedin is modest, wedged between a physiotherapy office and a pharmacy that looks like it's holding on by a thread. Winter here feels like a slow drip of cold that seeps into your bones, and the waiting room's a constant echo chamber of coughs and complaints. I'm Liam Patel. 29 years old, fresh from training, carrying $150,000 in student debt like a second skin. My engagement to Claire's fraying at the edges. She's restless, wants to go back to Auckland, and I can't blame her. I'm barely holding on. My heater broke 2 weeks ago, and with rent creeping up, eviction feels like a whisper away. That's the backdrop when David Wallace walks in for his consult. 53, tall, with a handshake that lingers longer than it should. I notice the way he adjusts himself. Too deliberate. Not the kind of discomfort I usually see. His phone buzzes with Tinder alerts. It's not what I expect in an emergency consult. The chart says performance anxiety, but his smirk tells a different story. There's a weight in the room I can't shake off. I'm a doctor, trained to stay professional, but something about him puts me on edge before the exam even starts. We move to the exam room and things go downhill fast. Wallace accidentally drops his phone. When I pick it up, it's open on a video titled Nurse Fantasy 7, the kind of video you don't expect in a medical consult, especially from a patient who's supposed to be nervous about performance. He leans in, eyes locked on mine, and asks, "You ever treat anyone your own age, Doc?" As if we're about to share a joke. Then he palms himself slowly through his sweatpants. I stiffen, trying to remind myself this is a medical setting, but the worst is yet to come. He pulls out the phone again and plays a 15-second clip. A woman in scrubs, close enough to what I wear, doing things that should never be part of a professional context. His laughter echoes around the small room. It's like we're old friends sharing a beer, not a doctor and patient. My heart races, and all I want is to get out of there. I reported the incident to Dr. Singh, my senior consultant. She listened, then sighed. "Wallace," she said. "Third complaint, this year. But he's on private insurance. The clinic manager says we manage expectations." That phrase stuck with me like a bad taste. At the front desk, the receptionist rolled her eyes when I told her. "Just wait until he asks for a prostate exam," she warned. The head nurse pulled me aside later, gripping my shoulder. "Next time, leave the door open." I thought I was prepared for the job. But that night, I washed my hands until they cracked. The smell of sanitizer was a thin shield against the shame and anger I couldn't shake. At home, Claire slept on the couch after I snapped about her wanting to move. I felt like I was crumbling from every side. And then security handed me a panic button to carry. Like I was the problem. 3 weeks passed, I thought I'd escaped him. Then Wallace booked another appointment. I swapped it with a colleague, but I overheard him outside my door. "Tell Dr. Handsome I brought show and tell." I forced a laugh that didn't reach my eyes. That night, I dreamed of gloved hands, cold laughter in empty hallways. I woke up, in a sweat. My phone showed a missed call from an unknown number, then a notification. My student loan repayment just doubled. No explanation. Claire's suitcase sat by the door. Everything felt like it was closing in. Sometimes I wonder if anyone gets what it's like to be a young male doctor in a profession built on trust and respect, only to find your boundaries smashed by someone you're supposed to help. The healthcare system pretends it protects us, but I'm starting to think that's just a story we tell ourselves. The same professionalism that demands I stay calm, polite, and composed is the cage that traps me in silence. I see nurses facing this every day and realize how little I understood. Before, Wallace's Google review still gleams at 5 stars. Great banter with staff, really puts you at ease. I can't tell anyone how wrong that is. I'm stuck in this job, stuck in debt, stuck in a cold flat with no heat, stuck pretending that I'm okay, but I'm not, and I'm not alone. I never thought I'd get used to the ache, but after the 3rd time twisting up in the emergency room, the dull, constant pain became a sort of background noise in my life. I'm Connor Byrne, 28, a freelance graphic designer in Dublin, stuck in a cycle of hospitals and late-night taxis. The doctors call it testicular torsion, a medical emergency that strikes like a freak storm, twisting the blood supply, threatening to take what I've got left. Each trip to St. Vincent's Public Hospital feels like a battle I lose a little more. Ireland's public health system is under siege, and without private insurance, specialist care is a luxury I can't afford. My disability payment is barely enough to cover the essentials, let alone cab fare. I'm stuck juggling pain, bills, and the cold that seeps into your bones when winter grips the city. November 2022 hit us hard, colder than usual, and the emergency department was bursting at the seams. But I had no choice but to endure the weight, the aches, and the indignity. That night, after another grueling ER visit, I limped outside on my hospital-issue crutch, waiting for the last $35 I had saved to book a free now taxi home. The security. Lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows over the concrete and steel. I was tired, vulnerable, and just wanted to get home before the pain turned sharp again. Then out of nowhere I saw him. A hulking figure, a man in a torn tracksuit reeking of cheap cider and something worse. The man slurred his words, staggering toward me from the hospital's smoking area. "You're walking funny, boyo. Need me to batter you proper?" His breath reeked of cheap cider and body odor, a pungent assault in the cold night air. I tried to back away, but he was quick. Suddenly, he dropped to his knees and grabbed my ankle. My heart jumped into my throat. I froze, caught between fear and disbelief. And then it happened, the moment that still haunts me. The man, like some deranged animal, took my sneaker in his teeth and growled. His eyes were wild, unblinking. Time slowed. The cold bit into my skin, but it was nothing compared to the chill that spread down my spine. I grabbed my crutch and pushed him away, using the only weapon I had. I forced myself to laugh, even as my voice shook. "Easy there. I've only one good ball left as is." For a moment, the tension broke. The man laughed too, hoarse, off-key. Then, without warning, he stumbled away, singing "The Fields of Athenry," off-key, a haunting melody in the freezing night. I stood there, breath ragged, heart pounding, and wondered how I'd survived something that felt so unreal. Hospital security didn't take my story lightly. When they showed me the footage, I saw the man's wild grin as he lunged at me. The guard paled. "That's Seamus," he said quietly. "Regular around here. History of biting staff, been banned twice. Apparently, Seamus was a fixture in the ER, a ghost of the city's mental health crisis, a man broken by the system and forgotten by everyone else. Change your taxi app," the guard advised. "Seamus likes to follow the yellow cabs." I swallowed hard, realizing I'd been lucky, or maybe cursed. The hospital felt less like a place of healing and more like a battleground for survival. Since then, I've switched to Uber, paying an extra $15 for the quiet ride option. It's a small price to feel safe. I wear slip-on shoes now, anything, to avoid the nightmare of that moment, the wet teeth sinking into my ankle. Sometimes when I pass St. Vincent's, I can't shake the memory. I still dream of Seamus's growl, of the smell of cider and stale sweat, and those teeth clamping down like a wild animal. The trauma didn't end with that night. It settled in, like the cold creeping through Dublin's streets in November. Every appointment feels like walking into a minefield. The waiting room's crowded, noisy, and full of people carrying invisible scars. I catch myself flinching at sudden movements, wary of shadows. Financial stress gnaws at me too. The cost of care, the taxis, the medication. It's a constant. Wait. I have to choose between paying rent and seeing specialists. More than once I've delayed treatment because I couldn't afford the bus or the cab. My freelance work suffers. Pain and stress make it hard to focus, and deadlines slip through my fingers. I'm isolated, stuck between managing a health crisis and the crushing realities of poverty. And every so often, when the night is still and the world quiets down, I replay that encounter in my head. The man with teeth where a human shouldn't have teeth. It's a kind of horror that no medical textbook can prepare you for. 6 months later, the city was buzzing about a viral TikTok, a video shot outside St. Vincent's, showing a sneaker dangling from a hospital fence. It was tattered and stained, the laces frayed, and something dark smeared across the white fabric. My heart stopped when I recognized it. My missing sneaker, the one Seamus had bitten off my foot that night. I shared the video with hospital security, but they said it was probably just trash. I don't know what to believe. I'm still struggling with the pain, the financial strain, and the memory. But that sneaker hanging there, it's a reminder of the cracks in the system, the people it fails, and the things you survive that no one talks about. Sometimes in the cold Dublin nights, I think about Seamus singing "The Fields of Athenry," and I wonder who's next, waiting outside the hospital, lost and broken. And I realize that for all the battles inside those walls, the real fight is just beginning. My grandfather Lee Way has been slipping away for months now. Glioblastoma stole his voice and most of his memories, but when he's scared, his hand grips mine like iron. Every evening after my shift as a medical billing specialist at Sunset Hills Hospice Center, I sit by his bedside holding on to what's left of him. The hospice is a tired place, squeezed between a noisy freeway and a forgotten cemetery. The walls are stained with years of grief, and the staff is stretched thin. It's October 2023. The night's turning cold and damp, and every shadow feels heavier here. Li Wei was a soldier once, proud, strong. Now he lies fragile and silent. I do my best to shield him from the chaos that creeps into this place. The nurses are kind, but overwhelmed. Sometimes I wonder if the system is crumbling faster than the people it's supposed to care for. I barely notice the man who slips in one evening at 7:45 p.m., blue scrubs, wrinkled and faded, a badge that reads, David Porter, End-of-Life Volunteer, with a photo so grainy it might as well be a ghost's. He smells like antiseptic mixed with stale whiskey, and his eyes, those tiny pinpricks in the dim room, don't match the tired warmth I expect here. I feel a chill as he moves closer, placing a Ziploc bag of white pills on the nightstand. I don't know what he's doing, but I know it's wrong. David leans in, voice low, conspiratorial. You're Asian. Don't your people understand mercy killings? His words land like a slap. I recoil, but before I can say anything, he reaches out and grabs my grandfather's wrist. Shh, old soldier, just swallow, he murmurs, eyes dark and cold. My heart races. I slam the call button again and again, but the nurse's station is understaffed and no one comes. I shove my body between David and the IV line, blocking him. His shoes catch my eye, blood smeared across the soles. I remember the hospice cat was found mutilated just hours ago. My skin crawls. David's gaze flicks to me, lips curling in a thin smile. Then he whispers. He'll scream when the seizures start and turns to leave. He takes the pills but drops a business card on the floor. D. Porter, Transition Guide. It reads, with a phone number I don't recognize, 503-555-0192. The whole encounter feels like a bad dream. I'm shaking, but I know I have to stay alert. Li Wei's life is in my hands now. The next day, I report everything to hospice security and the police. They tell me no one named David Porter works here or anywhere in the Oregon Hospice Network. The phone number? Disconnected for 12 years. I watch the security footage over and over. No one enters or leaves Li Wei's room during that hour. The cameras show only empty corridors and the steady hum of hospital life. The official response is silent on the details. They advise me to be cautious, to keep watching, but it feels like no one really wants to admit what's happening. An invisible predator in a place meant to be safe. I sit at my grandfather's bedside, the weight of fear settling in. Then, something unexpected happens. For the first time in months, Li Wei's eyes flicker open. His voice, weak but clear, cuts through the silence. Xiao Ezhen Nage Yi Sheng. Beware that, doctor. Then, just like that, he slips back into silence. His warning chills me to the bone. Since that night, I carry pepper spray tucked in my stethoscope pouch. I demand to see IDs from every staff member who enters the room. Trust is fragile here, broken by fear and uncertainty. Each morning, I find dark smudges on my grandfather's pillow, like charcoal fingerprints pressed into the fabric. No one can explain them. The hospice feels haunted, but not by ghosts you can see. The real specters are the gaps in care, the understaffing, the desperation of those left vulnerable. I talk to other families. Some have noticed strange visitors, unexplained noises, or pills missing from cupboards. But most keep silent, afraid of rocking the boat. I'm caught between protecting Li Wei and navigating a system that's fraying at the edges. Sometimes I wonder if the mercy David spoke of is really mercy, or something darker. One night I sat holding Li Wei's hand as the room grew cold. I thought of David Porter, the man who slipped in without knocking, who brought danger disguised as comfort. I know my grandfather is slipping away, but I refuse to let anyone take that journey from him without his consent. The hospital halls are full of quiet stories, some too dark to tell. And sometimes in the dead of night I swear I hear whispers outside the door, a faint scent of antiseptic and something bitter. I don't know who David really was, or if he was ever real, but I do know this. The mercy some offer is a weapon, and the true battle is keeping those we love safe from it. For Li Wei, for myself, I will fight. November nights in Cork have a way of sinking into your bones, especially when you're running on 3 hours of sleep and a lifetime of mistakes. St. Lucia's Medical Center was barely holding together, peeling paint, ancient machinery, and staff stretched thin to the breaking point. I'd spent the last decade pouring everything into emergency medicine, but lately, it felt like I was patching a sinking ship with spit and prayers. Divorce hit me hard. My ex never missed a chance to remind me I was falling apart. Debts piling up, custody battles, whispered rumors of malpractice. I chain-smoked in the back hall, dragging long puffs to keep the anxiety at bay. That night, the storm was relentless. The wind screamed through cracked windows, rattling the old metal lockers. The ER was quiet except for the usual chaos of broken bodies and broken spirits. At 3:17 a.m., they wheeled in Declan Murphy, known troublemaker, local bar fights, and now a motorcycle crash victim with a shattered skull and a leg nearly severed. The stench of whiskey clung to him like a second skin. I confirmed death quickly. No pulse, no breath, pupils fixed and dilated. Awif, fresh-faced and hopeful, zipped the body bag with a trembling hand. I thought that would be the end. But then came the scream. It wasn't a scream from down the hall or from a delirious patient in pain. It came from inside the damn bag. My heart skipped. I froze. Awif gasped, and I saw her pale face tense. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, the words almost swallowed by the storm outside. I unzipped the bag slowly, dread coiling tight in my stomach. Declan lay there cold and lifeless, his skin pale, his eyes shut. But the scream had come from him, or something trapped inside that bag with him. Awif crossed herself, backing away. Her faith in miracles was cracking. Security footage later confirmed it. The body bag moved on its own after we left the room. No one else had entered. It was impossible. That same night, the morgue fridge failed, thawing 6 bodies in a sickening pool of blood-tinged water. The air was thick with rot, and something I couldn't name, a whisper of the unnatural. Awif never came back after that night. I don't blame her. That scream changed everything. The fallout hit me hard. My ex, always eager to cut me down, used the incident in court. "You hear screams at work? Maybe you're losing it," he sneered over the phone during custody hearings. The hospital board summoned me, accusing me of traumatizing the staff and undermining morale. "Maybe take some time off, suck," they suggested with thinly veiled disdain. And Declan's mother? Her voicemails tore at me. "He wasn't a bad lad. Why'd you let him die?" Her grief was raw and accusing. I was drowning in blame, both theirs and my own. I began doubting my senses, questioning every moment of that night. Then I found Declan's police file. 2 assault charges, both mysteriously dropped when witnesses changed their minds. The name of one victim, Awif Walsh's younger brother, a chilling connection, a sick knot in my gut. Dr. Sean Byrne, the pathologist, scoffed at my concerns. "Gas escaping the lungs," he said flatly. "That's all. Could sound like a scream, but it's just physics." Awif denied screaming. "I was nowhere near that bag," she told me once before she quit. Another voice whispered the harshest truth. "You're burnt out, Neve. The mind plays tricks when it's pushed too far." Maybe they were right. But the scream wasn't just noise. It was words, clear as day. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever haunted Declan's body was a reflection of something darker. His violent past, the lives he'd hurt, the grudges left unpaid, the morgue, the hospital, even the storm itself seemed to conspire to keep the truth buried. Now, nights are the hardest. Alone in the on-call room, I nurse a drink, cigarettes burning down to ash. The wind howls through the vents, carrying voices that sound like they want to be heard. Sometimes when the storm is just right, I swear I hear words, taunting, sorrowful, accusing. "Should have checked my pulse longer, Doc." The scream didn't leave with Declan. It lives in these walls, in the silence between shifts, in my restless mind. I write in my notebook to hold on to some semblance of control. The last line I scribbled reads, "Do the dead feel guilt, or just us?" I don't have answers, just the weight of that scream, echoing in my dreams, reminding me that some deaths don't stay quiet. I never thought a night in the ER could break me the way this one did. Cedar Valley Regional is no stranger to tragedy. Mining accidents, overdoses, heart attacks, they come in like clockwork. But March 2024 was colder, the air sharp with more than just the wind off the mountains. I was 42 then, a man who'd seen too much but still clung to the hope that medicine could fix almost anything. The divorce papers sat on my kitchen table for months, unsigned. I was barely holding together my marriage, and the hospital was a second home. The exhaustion had piled up like the snow outside, and I was running on fumes as paramedics wheeled in Travis Boone, 38, a local coal miner. He was found pulseless at the site of a minor tunnel collapse. No visible injuries, just a man whose heart had stopped working mid-shift. I ran the code with a desperation I hadn't felt in years. 47 minutes later, I gave the call. No pulse, fixed pupils, no brainstem reflexes. I expected silence. But the monitor told a different story. Travis's heart was still beating. Steady, 72 beats per minute. No drugs, no pacemaker, just his heart, stubborn as the mountains he'd mined all his life. I couldn't explain it, and that was just the beginning. When the transplant team arrived at 6:30 a.m., they were ready to harvest the organ. Perfectly, healthy, they said, but useless without a living body. The OR was tense. As the surgeon made the first incision, the ECG flatlined for a full 3.2 seconds. The room held its breath. Then the heart spiked to 120 beats per minute, without any intervention. Lights flickered above, monitors glitching. Then a chill went down my spine when the screen displayed an address. Travis's childhood home carved into the electronic pulse. The scrub nurse crossed herself, her hands trembling. The heart beat faster, almost angry, like it refused to be taken away. We froze, caught between disbelief and fear. This wasn't a heart. It was a living thing, angry, defiant. That day I left the OR with a weight I couldn't shake. The line between life and death had blurred, and I was the one standing on the edge. Travis's chart was amended with cardiac persistence of unknown etiology. His family told us stories. 3 generations of Boone men died with hearts still beating hours after declared gone. I started sleeping with my stethoscope on the nightstand, like a talisman against the unknown. My marriage? Still hanging by a thread. I pressed my ear against patients' chests longer than necessary, searching for something. An echo of Travis's defiance. The hospital became a place of whispered theories. Some blamed the coal dust. Years of inhaling toxic particles had somehow made Travis's heart too stubborn to stop. Others spoke of mountain legends, living graves, where the earth refused to release its dead. And then there was the theory I couldn't shake. The heart remembered the way home. I was a doctor trained to trust science, but that night, science felt small against the weight of the unknown. I began to see the mountains differently. They were alive with stories and secrets. The Boone family had roots, dug deep into the soil, men who carried their past in every heartbeat. Each day I watched families like Travis's waiting for answers that might never come. The hospital corridors echoed with the pain of forgotten places, the lives written off too soon. I started researching, pulling Appalachian folklore into late-night reading. Tales of souls trapped between life and death, hearts that refused to quit, hands clawing from graves. The transplant team moved on, but I stayed tangled in the mystery. My nights became restless, dreams haunted by a pounding heart and a darkened mine shaft. Was it stubbornness? Fate? Or something ancient, whispered by the mountains themselves? One early morning, I drove past the Boone family cemetery, shrouded in dawn mist. The air was thick and cold, the ground freshly turned. I swear I saw handprints climbing out of Travis's grave, muddy, human. One set of footprints led straight back toward the mines. My own heart pounded in my chest. Exactly. 72 beats per minute, as if syncing with that impossible rhythm. I stopped the car and closed my eyes. The mountains stood silent but alive, holding their secrets tight. Back at the hospital, the weight stayed with me. I'm not sure what truly makes a heart stop. Maybe it's not just a matter of biology, but memory, history, stubbornness, and the land we carry inside us. For now, I keep listening because some hearts refuse to be forgotten.